everybody, welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie The Tender Bar. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go ahead and watch the movie first before you watch this review. It is available on Amazon Prime for streaming right now. So the movie The Tender Bar is based on a memoir by an author named J.R. Moehringer, who I had not heard of before this, but he's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, among other things, and a memoirist. So the movie is basically based on his life. It takes place in the 70s in, I think, Long Island, and in New York, I'm pretty sure it's Long Island. And yeah, it's basically all about his life as a kid, and then it also talks about his life a little bit more when he's older, in his early 20s and sort of, I guess, 18 to college years. And the movie stars Ben Affleck and a kid named Daniel Ranieri, who does a really great job. So as far as what I liked about the movie, I really like the opening sequence. It opens up with the movie Radar Love by Golden Earring, which is a favorite of mine. And there's a Ford Fairlane driving down the road, and I'm like, okay, this movie looks good. I am into this. Let's go. And the music in general was really good. It's a lot of great 70s music. They have some 80s music playing later in the college years. The cars in general are all really cool. His dad, who's called The Voice in the movie, who's a radio DJ, he drives a Toronado. There's that Fairlane, and then Ben Affleck's character, Uncle Charlie, drives a Cadillac, which is, again, really cool Cadillac. So great cars in this if you like 60s and 70s cars. I thought in general the cast did a really good job. The actor playing young JR, who was Daniel Ranieri, I believe this is his first film, or at least they say introducing, so one of his first films. Did a great job. He was really cool. I don't think he particularly looked like either of the parents or Tye Sheridan, but he's a good actor. So that's great. Christopher Lloyd is in this, who's always good. I haven't seen him in anything since I Know I'm Not a Serial Killer, I think it was called. He's not in it much. He's obviously getting a bit older, but the scenes he has in it, I enjoyed. Lily Rabe plays the mom in this. She does a great job. She's also not in it very much. It's mostly about the kid, but I enjoyed her performance in this. And Tye Sheridan, I thought he did a good job playing the older version of JR. There's a couple scenes in the movie that I thought were really great. When he first sort of publishes the Family Gazette, and Uncle Charlie is reading it. He's kind of smoking a cigarette, and you're waiting to hear what he thinks of it. And he says, you know, like, you either have it or you don't, something like that. And he goes, and kid, you got it. And yeah, it's a great moment. Everyone's pretty excited about it. I was excited about it. There's another scene when he gets the acceptance letter to Yale that, again, was a really great scene. It was awesome. And again, Ben Affleck is for some reason the one who reads that letter out. As far as what I disliked about the movie, though, I think the title is terrible. I think it is a very stupid, very, very bad title. I can't believe how bad the title is. And I was really kind of surprised because I thought, well, maybe this is something that Amazon came up with. This is some Hollywood title because, you know, he's not a bartender. It's The Tender Bar. But no, that's the title of the memoir. And I guess I just don't think it's very clever. And I think they could have come up with something better than that. Yeah. As far as that goes, the narration, there's a narration in this movie. It starts out with it's very much like almost like the Wonder Years or something like that. And at first I couldn't quite place the voice, but it's Ron Livingston from Office Space, who's the narrator, who's great, and he does a great job as the narrator, but I didn't particularly like the narration. Especially at first, it seemed like they were doing it too much, to the point where I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And he's explaining stuff I don't need him to explain because the movie is explaining that for me, like show, don't tell. And I was kind of concerned that they would do that throughout the entire movie. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this narration throughout the entire movie. And luckily they did, and they kind of stopped it for a long time. And then they bring it back, and then they kind of stop it again. So yeah, I don't know. I again, Ron Livingston fan, but I don't know if they really needed it at all. I didn't really like Ben Affleck in this that much. I've heard a lot of people praise his performance, and I don't know. I think from his very first introduction, he's sort of just hamming it up and kind of, you know, mugging for the camera. And I guess he's doing it for the kid or whatever, but I don't know. I felt like he did an okay job, and I liked his character, but I just feel like I was aware that he was acting the entire time that he was acting. I actually just watched him in a movie called 200 Cigarettes that I think came out in 1999, so 22, 23 years ago. And he also plays a bartender in that. And he's not in it much, but I thought he was more believable in that than he was in this in some ways. I don't know how he hasn't gotten better at acting. And maybe that's just my own personal preference. It's hard to say. I've heard a lot of people say they like someone's performance in something that I didn't, and the opposite is true as well. But for me, I didn't love it. On the sound mixing of this movie, again, I love the music, but it was one of those where the music was so loud. I watched it at home on just my TV without a sound bar or anything, but the music was so loud and the dialogue was so quiet. I'm sitting there just constantly, I would forget to sometimes turn the sound back up after a very loud song had played, and then I would miss some of the dialogue, and then the opposite, I would turn it up for the dialogue, and then all of a sudden loud sound comes, blaring through in the music. So this is a problem with all movies, but this is something I particularly noticed with this movie, and to the point where it was made it hard to watch the movie. It made it hard to enjoy it. Now I'm sure they mix it for movie theaters or for better sound systems, but I was just watching it off the regular sound off my TV, and it was difficult. There's a Sydney story. So there's a storyline with a woman when he's in the college sort of years, named Sydney. And the actress is Brianna Middleton. She does a great job. She's a very pretty young actress. And I just don't know if they needed the character. I don't know if they needed that storyline at all. I mean, I sort of understand the point, but they didn't really resolve it too much. Well, I guess they kind of did. And hey, maybe it was just there to sort of to fill it out, to fill out the story a little more. The story is a bit long. It's an hour 45, hour 48 minutes or something like that. And you definitely notice it. You feel it. At least I did. It seems a little long. I thought the older JR story in general, I didn't like as much as the younger story. The story with the kid growing up, I thought was, really funny and interesting. We got to see Christopher Lloyd and even the Ben Affleck stuff. I did actually enjoy it. I liked the character. I would have liked to see, I don't know, maybe like Adam Driver or somebody played instead, maybe. Not that, I don't know, he wasn't terrible, but just, I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't like Ben Affleck. But that being said, as we go into the older JR story, we get less of the Uncle Charlie character. I just, nothing against Tye Sheridan. I think he did a good job. He's a good actor. And Brianna Middleton was good, and the friends were good as well, but I just didn't care as much about the character. There's a nice scene where he gets the job at the New York Times, I think it is. And the other scene where he sort of loses that job, I guess. But I don't know. It was one of those where I really liked the beginning of the movie, and then I sort of lost interest as it went on. So the movie is directed by George Clooney. It's weird. I feel like his first couple movies I really sort of liked. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, I read that book and I liked the movie. It wasn't, I didn't love the movie, but I thought it was interesting. And I think Good Night and Good Luck was a very good movie, and I think most people would agree. I'm fairly sure it was Oscar nominated and everything. But yeah, since then I haven't liked much. Leatherheads was, not terrible, but not great. Monuments Men, I remember seeing it and being excited for it and thinking it was going to be great. And other people, I remember people talking about saying, "Oh, this looks awesome!" Bill Murray and George Clooney in World War II, and they're saving paintings. Like, oh yeah, I'm in. And the movie ended up being kind of boring and too long. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Clooney as a director. There's definitely some scenes in this that I feel like could have been directed better. It's not a very flashy style of directing. It's kind of old school, and he lets things breathe, but it's also kind of boring sometimes. Yeah, they do some weird candlepin bowling in here, which was cool and interesting to see, but I'm not aware that that's something they do in Long Island. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. It's weird. In some ways, I expected to like this movie, or I thought maybe I would, because there's a lot of parallels to my life in this. The young kid had a dad who wasn't really around, and so did I in some ways. He wanted to be a writer when he was a kid, so did I. He grew up kind of poor and in this sort of non-traditional sort of family, and so did I. So yeah, and then in some ways I have similarities to Uncle Charlie, because I also am an uncle to a lot of kids, and I think I hope to at least one of my nephews. I was kind of like an Uncle Charlie type character, and I think everyone wants to be that cool uncle that the nieces and nephews like. But that being said, yeah, I wanted to like it, and I didn't like it as much as I would have. I wonder if if I were younger, if this movie came out 10 years ago, or if I were 10 years younger. If I were closer to the age of the character in the college years, maybe I would like it more. I'm not sure. But yeah, for me, it didn't quite work. Like I said, I was sort of surprised to find, you know, I thought maybe I'd like the book better. You know, maybe it was worth reading the book. You know, and I read a little bit more about J.D. Moehringer, and I found out he won the Pulitzer, and I'm like, okay, so yeah, he's obviously a good writer, but how did he come up with the Tender Bar? It's such a terrible title. And then there's a line in the movie where he says something like, you know, what's that saying about old dogs? Speaking of old dogs, and I just thought it was such a hacky, stupid, badly written line. And I don't know if that's from the book or if that's something William Monahan, who is the screenwriter here, who won the Oscar for The Departed, I believe. And again, I thought maybe, you know, he was the one who came up with the Tender Bar. Maybe it was an Amazon Jeff Bezos thing. But no, that's what they called it. So I don't know. I think overall, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. It's, you know, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. If you saw it, I don't know. What did you think of it? Maybe you liked it more. Maybe you liked it less. I think next week, Phil's going to be back and we're going to be watching Scream. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and we will see you here again next week.